asked us to represent them as one of the resellers of the area, so we appreciate Autodesk trusting us with their product that we could show you tonight. So we were given the same files, same information as the rest of the teams, and quickly started to look at developing a package of plans, elevation sections, details, and modeled information to show you all. So one of the tools we first started out with was something called Formit. Formit is a web-based application. It can be logged in from the internet or actually run from an iPad. So we pulled up some of the address information of where this building was located. And this tool is specifically designed to do massing studies, kind of a drawing and outline, push-pull, given an understanding of what that building may actually look like, and to go through some different design ideas and intentions, and also apply different materials. So here you can see we're just kind of going through, exploring the different design, the different shapes, starting to create that so we get a better understanding of what's going on for this particular building. Well, there went my video. I guess we're next to the next slide. So next we're taking this three-dimensional solid model design. We looked at it from some design standpoint, and then looked at logging into what's called Autodesk 360, which is online storage, online collaboration, sharing, actually developing the model some more, and getting into kind of instant messaging, chatting, inviting the maybe design owner, the design folks, the owner, to do some collaborative relationship type things. But it automatically then saves this Formit file into a Revit model for us that we can then take in directly to Revit. So it's an automatic save type transfer. So once we started developing the model, we started to lay out the different designs, the different shapes, and this really didn't have a lot of straight, specific walls in it, as I'm sure you all had noticed. So we started to use some, what they call these in-place massing models. So being able to have curved walls, unique different shapes, kind of free-form, this cornucopia-looking sort of a shell or ceiling they have on there. But once we were continuing to develop it, we were able to look at this in sections, and we had time to cut some sections. All right, guys. So we actually cut some slide sections in there to show the model. And this is friendly. That's all friends, right? Right? So we were able to cut some sections in there. And also be able to look at this model, establish some visual heights, look at some cross coordination, what's going on in it. The interesting thing about this, because it's that free-form modeling shape, there's actually external families you can use, or actually using in-place modeling to really get that overall design and intent in there. And then some of the different wall openings, some of the windows, we're able to just punch those through there. They're going through there perpendicular to it, not kind of oddly aligned to it. So again, just looking at some different sort of shadows, placing it in the site, just seeing what's sort of going on. And just looking at some different views, seeing what the design is looking like for us. Here's what they call this sketch mode, basically, so we can turn this to look more like a hand-drawn type image. You know, the owners, when they see images that look all finalized and rendered, they're worried you're blowing their budget, so we can, have the computer trick it for us and say, hey, this is a nice, sketchy, sort of soft-looking lines, to give it that soft approach, saying, hey, we haven't barely even brushed or touched on the budget for you guys, right? But we really have the model pretty well developed. And here's just a quick rendering we did, applying some materials, some lighting, some sun in there, based off of the initial materials, just to get a quick study. And I think this rendering took 1 minute, 19 seconds, probably. Does that sound all right? So there you go. So it didn't take very long. This was actually rendered locally on our computer, on our laptops, but there is a web-based tool for rendering in the cloud. So you don't have to worry about your specific computer processing that information. You can offload it, let it render in the cloud, and send you an email back that, hey, that information is ready to be shared. And also then we can send out an email to other collaborators that here's some renderings. You can take a look at them, give us your opinion, that kind of stuff. Again, just a couple different shots. Here's a 3D sort of section view where you can take the model and cut through it, spin it around, see what's see what's going on, how that interfaces with the rest of the site, cutting lines through the model. Just applying some material, a little bit of color to that as well. And here's just an overall site sort of perspective. So because we brought in that format model with the site-related information, we were able to start putting trees and different information on here. There's actually contouring and different cuts, actually being able to place sidewalks that are actually live on the site itself, following the contours for you. And again, just giving it sort of a black and white, sort of just quick study. It's not one of these final type of renderings, but this is sort of what I call this byproduct of using Revit. It's basically, I have the model information, I have my plans, I have my elevations, I have my sections. Let me just show some different views, some different perspectives of this to see how this building basically looks in it. In any of the views that we're working in with Revit are live interactive views. So you can see the wall is selected there, even though we're in like an elevation type view. And the idea is that we can touch and pick and work on different things, no matter what area we're looking at. It's really whatever makes sense to where we're at. Again, just another quick sort of rendering. Took about a minute to quickly do this. Here's some interior shots. So we wanted to also include not only, hey, it's an exterior shell of this building, but what's going on inside. So if you're standing in that particular space, what does it look like? And we did some ambient occlusion to just give some soft sort of gray shadowing to that, but looking at what are some furniture choices. So even though this is an existing building, we can also look at some different, what we call design options that really show different furniture, different information, maybe some design changes going forward as well. But we're giving it that sketchy look, and you can see the nice sort of squiggly lines. It really softens it up, gives it that kind of artistic flair, making the owner feel like he's getting a little bit more for bang for his buck. Again, another kind of higher up sort of bird's eye view, bird's eye shot for you to show the client. And these are all byproducts. And a lot of people say, well, we don't show this, externally. Great, these are still great shots to use internally. Again, if that byproduct, we're able to show, maybe understand the space, maybe adjust that up. So it's starting to help out. So let me tell you a step further. Say, let's render this as well. Let's see what kind of light is going on in here. Because when we did the site portion of it, we actually positioned it and orientated it correctly to the site. So I want to see how that light is actually coming in and interacting with the individual light in the space itself. And you can see some of the darker areas here and actually the material of the walls showing up. But again, this is just the byproduct of creating the 3D model using Revit. Now this is kind of fun because this is again the exploded views. You used to see these years ago, and people spent tons and tons of time creating these type of views. This is this displaced view, and it's actually just the true model in there, but we're actually telling these objects to be offset a specific distance. You can actually drag them out and view them and see them, but there's still the live model information. So if you actually move or modify any component within there, that will modify that view as well. And it really helps to tell the story. And it's a great new feature that they added this year. Really excited they did, because it really helps us show these nice exploded views. Again, here's just another view of it, pulling the different information out. Really nice to be able to show this and share with folks. And again, this is all this byproduct stuff I'm talking about, that as a result of making these models, we can see this stuff. Also, everything we do in Revit is automatically tracking different information, whether it's rooms, room numbers, square footage, finishes, data, whatever it is, it's live tracking it. So if we add a room or take out a door or put a new door in, it's going to automatically update it to every view, every location in the actual model itself. So we don't have to sit there, print out a set of documents and with a highlighter saying, is that room place, is that there, different stuff. It's automatically calculating it without having to do a save or a refresh or anything else. Okay. We also took the model out to our Navisworks for doing some quick calculations, basically a quantity takeoff. So again, using kind of Revit as the hub, if you will, to export that information out to various design tools that are accessible through our Autodesk Design Suite. We're able to come back through here and actually export some information that gets into quantities, amounts, omni-class, different information, just by reading that model in that particular program. Also, we initially did some sun studies, so when we place that correctly on the site, we're able to visually see the arc of the sun, the time of day, the time of year, how that's positioned. Whether we have to look at, even though this is an existing building, would it be really better suited if we just turned that to view it a little bit more correctly on the site, maybe some better energy efficiency, some of the windows or some of the overhangs. We could analyze that before any ground was broken. So this is a nice again, additional tool within the software. Also, we took this out to what they call Glue, and some of you, maybe you've heard of that. We're able to look at the model. Somebody who doesn't maybe have a Revit application, we can share this out with them, where they can visually get in and sort of explore the model itself. And then did a little video here, if it's going to run here for us. Basically, it's just a quick fly through. This was up in the cloud, actually. We logged in and did a recording of it. But being able to explore and look around this model to experience it. The previous slide I had on there was actually selecting that individual wall to give us some information about it. How big is this wall? How thick is this wall? What is the overall square footage of it? That kind of stuff. Also, here's just another solar kind of for lighting analysis. Where's the building in relationship to the site? What are the surrounding information, the trees and foliage, and that kind of stuff. And then we took that information out to do an energy analysis, basically. And this is another set of tools that are available not only in the product, but it's actually interconnected to the web or up in the cloud. So we're not doing that processing power on our specific computer. We're taking this, saying, here's my model, again, that wagon wheel, if you will, exporting it out to let it analyze and tell us some different variables about the building, getting into the annual energy use, carbon elements related to that. Just by it being placed correctly on the site, it's actually pulling up some of the GIS data, some of the government data that relates to how much is the cost of electricity in that specific area. So it's reading that, reading the location, calculating it. And this column is actually showing two different scenarios. So we're actually comparing a different scenario. So if we had a different roof or a different wall thickness, we can say how much more energy efficient is that for you. So you can actually show some data to the client and say, it's a really bad idea, or you really need these life shelf louvers on your project. So we also took it out, again, another extension sort of tool via the web, using the Revit model, is this actual lighting analysis for Revit. So it's actually reading the model, doing some analysis based off a lead, right? And giving you a pass-fail. It's very much like a comm check if you've ever done that in the past. We had to manually sit there and enter that stuff. I'll teach your walls and this and that. This is automatically reading that information of the model and doing the processing for us. So we want to see a pass and it did good, right? So we can then, make sure we have the right materials and information in here. There was the first run we did, it did a fail. We went back and changed some different stuff to adjust it. Again, giving you kind of that kind of rainbow spectrum analysis of the information. And there's been a new add-in, if you will, that gets into some of the environmental impact out in the building itself. So this is a plug-in to Revit that actually goes through very much like the comm check and allows us to analyze the building, process some information. So, we look at some of the stuff like the modeling and the elevations and plans and do some of these type of things as sort of the very easy front-end stuff. It's how do we use that information going forward and to continue adding these specific tools to allow us to do these different analysis of the software itself. But also, we have Mr. Massey, who's our MEP specialist. So he said, I got to get some lights in there, I got to get some electrical. You just got to let me put that in there because that's part of the Revit package as well. So we put some lighting in there, put some mechanical ductwork in there, and for him to be happy. But that's part of the product as well. And also to be able to do a schedule with that, actually a load balance panel schedule, which he did implement for us. This also shows some cooling loads, some heating loads in here as well. The electrical panel schedule that I mentioned, and also some interference checking, which is built into Revit. So, is there a duct trying to go through my wall? Whose fault is it? Usually the MEP folks, but that's my fault. So they would have to fix the model. But so anyway, there's some built-in cross-checking of the model within Revit that actually cross-checks against specific Revit models, but also like I mentioned, Navis works as we cross-check against 63 different file types. So you're not just limited to using a Revit. All right, here's just a nice little rendered shot. I sort of wanted to end with that. Again, we really enjoy being able to come out here, show it. A lot of times we're spending time teaching folks and just sharing about Revit, so we really like it when we can come out, show you some of its capabilities and what it can do.
I have a question for you. How much of this can actually be done in less than 3 hours?
How much of this?
Yeah.
We did this all right now.
Oh, you did all of this? Right?
Yeah.
All the
Where have you
hours?
been? I didn't see you come by. I haven't seen you like 2-3 weeks.
We have one question for you, though. What
Yes.
was the size of your file?
The file size is 26 megs.
Thank you very much.
And real quickly, we were actually working all collaboratively together in the cloud with our model and sharing and updating it as well.
Thank you.